Hello, this is Real World Audio, and today I'm focusing on 29th question for this video, and he asked about driver efficiency, and drivers' efficiencies can be a little bit misleading in terms of sensitivity, as crossover will take away from the sensitivity that drivers are presented in the data sheets, and this is getting becoming a bigger and bigger problem, and we are seeing this huge issue that there's a driver advertised as 96 dB or 97 dB efficient. You build a loudspeaker out of it and you are barely getting 91 dB efficiency out of it, and you are scratching your head like, what on earth has happened? Where did my efficiency go? And this has many aspects, and it's a huge issue really. So I will not go into this in detail, but today I'm just going to scratch the surface of this issue with something more trivial, but that issue stems from here as well. So basically, that when you look at it, now let's look at the situation that you have a loudspeaker, and that loudspeaker has an efficiency and sensitivity rating to it. So let's say that that driver is 1% efficient, or in other words, it has a 93 dB per watt meter sensitivity. These two are equal. So if it's 93 dB per watt meter, not that volts something BS sensitivity rating, but the watt meter sensitivity rating, that equals to 1% efficiency. So let's say that you have that loudspeaker, but the result that you will get from it, it's not only up to this efficiency rating. So if you have one loudspeaker that's more efficient than the other, it does not guarantee that it's going to be easier to drive than another loudspeaker with a lower efficiency, and that's because of crossover. So crossover can make driving much harder, and can take away the impact of high efficiency, because the interface between your amplifier and your loudspeaker, it's going to suck out quite a bit of those of that efficiency. So how does that work? So basically this works in a way that to be able to use that efficiency, your amplifier needs to have a direct contact to your loudspeaker drivers. And this only happens in case you have a full range driver or a single driver loudspeaker. So when you have that, then your amplifier is able to take advantage of the full efficiency rating of that loudspeaker, because the amplifier is talking directly to the loudspeaker. Now this has other advantages and disadvantages, but for now, for our purposes, what I'm looking at today is that if there's no crossover, then your amplifier is able to get the full benefit of the efficiency of your loudspeaker. And when we put a crossover there, the crossover, when you look at it from the eyes of an engineer, and how, even if you are not an engineer, you just use loudspeakers and amplifiers in your home because you want to listen to music, not because you want to design it or redesign or whatever. But you have to look, and not just you but me as well, everyone needs to look at the crossover as if it was a separate component So basically, the audio chain elements, when we look at that, it's not just source, amplifier, loudspeaker, but it's source, amplifier, crossover, loudspeaker, because all of these elements are elements that make a really big transition in the signal. So basically your source, let's say you have a streamer, it changes bits into analog signal. Now that's a huge conversion. So you can look at it and every single element in your audio chain as a foreign currency trader office. And the first currency change is the change from bits to analog music. And then comes your amplifier, and that changes the currency of a low-level signal to a high-level signal. So that was another exchange, and there's an exchange rate that goes for that. So either you are benefiting from it or you are losing big time on your exchange rate. Just like when you are trying to exchange your money from one currency to another, you can get a good deal or you can play, not just play, but pay very hard or high price for an exchange. So it happens with audio as well. And then when your amplifier is done with it, if your loudspeaker has a crossover, that crossover also acts as a trading zone. It converts that signal that the amplifier is transmitting to it and creates something totally different to feed to each loudspeaker driver. And then your loudspeaker drivers convert it again from electricity to air motion, basically. So for this process, every single element has tremendous impact. And your crossover by itself has just as big of an impact as any other part of the chain. And that's why you should look at it as something separate from the loudspeaker cabinet and loudspeaker drivers, because it's doing its own thing. And if you want to improve your loudspeaker, then let's say you already like the sound of it, but you want a little bit more in some aspect, then the way to get it is to look at the crossover and fine-tune it. Because when we are looking at efficiency, Easter drive, and how your signal that's coming from the amplifier gets converted to sound vibrations in your room, there are two huge interfaces that you need to worry about. One is the interface between your loudspeaker cone movement and the air. That's a huge one. And that's where loudspeaker efficiency, that's the efficiency rating that gives how good that process is. So the higher the efficiency or otherwise sensitivity, the better that rating is. It means that your loudspeaker is better at translating electricity into sound. However, this is not the only aspect of it. The other aspect is that the amplifier also needs to have an efficient communication with your loudspeaker. So basically, what we are looking at are two processes. One of the processes is to use the amplifier's output and convert it to something that your loudspeaker uses, and that's the crossover. So the crossover is doing something very complex and very simple at that time. It's also called like impedance matching of your loudspeaker cone to your amplifier. And that process, to have a good final result, is almost as important as the efficiency of the loudspeaker itself. So basically, if let's say you have a 95 dB efficient loudspeaker, but the crossover is tremendously complex, and the interface with the amplifier is compromised because of that, because the amplifier has a very hard time to drive that very complex crossover, then even though it's 95 dB efficient or sensitive, you still will not have as good sound as with a driver that's capable only of 92 dB efficiency, but there's no crossover. Because then you have a direct line to your amplifier and you will have a much cleaner mid-range. You will get a much cleaner sound. However, as we all know, single driver solutions have the problem with the frequency extension. And yes, there are systems where the frequency extensions of single driver system can be truly fantastic. But as always, if we pay equal attention to a multi-driver solution, we can emphasize those frequency extremes even better. However, what we cannot do is to get the same level of clarity that you are getting with full range. So thank you guys for tuning in. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.